I bought the rose. I really liked it because it's quite kitsch. It's very whimsical and very beautiful, and it's also probably looks the best, well, out of all my snow globes because it's relatively new, so it hasn't sort of started to age.
Hi Kourtney, thank you for having us here today. It's sunny. Can you tell us where we are? Because of course we ask you to choose the place where we would have this discussion. So where are we, and why did you decide to have us here?
We're in my house, my apartment, in Montreuil, and I chose this place because you asked. I think it was you asked like a studio or where I worked or something where I was comfortable in. So I work from home, so I chose here.
So we are going to discuss, of course, your work today, and also your influences in general. Why do you choose in your work to use disguise in fiction? Was that something that you started to do originally?
Disguise in fiction, yeah. I mean, disguise in fiction, yeah, like in the sense of creating sort of fictional worlds. I guess maybe it's like a form of like tableau photography, we could call it as well, creating these hyper-real worlds. I've been doing that, I mean, since I was in university. I studied art at university, specializing in photography, and I was always interested in kind of in creating or bringing to life imaginary worlds that are kind of inside my head or worlds that I see elsewhere. So kind of I'm interested, especially with photography, of how do we kind of change or shift reality through the camera so we can kind of create another vision or another realm.
Okay, and is this how you decided to do self-portrait as well?
Why did I decide to do self-portrait? That was more in the beginning. It was just more like a beginning, like in university days. Using yourself as a subject was quite simple in a way that I didn't have to find models. What was big back in the day, what was important, discourse in university, which is now much more, I think, more common and more prevalent in like kind of current ways of thinking, is that you don't just go and photograph people you don't know or groups of people or cultural groups, because it's appropriation, which was actually much, like I said, like it was all quite common knowledge in a way in university. So me thinking like, well, what do I want to take photos of? I thought maybe I'll just start with myself because this is a world I know, and start with what you know and then see how you branch out from there. And I ended up still just sticking with using self-portraits because it became less about sort of a choice of like making sure I don't exploit people, because when you shoot yourself, you're not exploiting anybody. But it's also just kind of became more that I really enjoyed being a character in these sort of strange, weird worlds that I was creating.
Yeah, do you have fun when you do like portray this woman?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah, I have a fun job.
Yes, you do.
I do. It's pretty fun.
Your images seem at the same time quite constructed, and you said in an interview that sometimes it was totally a question of luck and like what you see in the streets. So my question would be, does improvisation take a big part of your work, or is it very constructed beforehand?
Oh no, it's probably 99% improvisation. I mean, it's all these places and photographs. I mean, these places, these locations that you see in the images, they're all just kind of found. Obviously, I didn't discover them or anything; they were already there. But it's just more me driving around. I mean, it depends on the project, of course, but like in general, I would say that it's choosing a place, going there, and then kind of just going out, ready already with usually in a car, all the equipment. Some wigs, some makeup, clothing, all that stuff, and then driving around and seeing what I see. It's quite a sort of like eccentric view of a place. It's not, I just kind of let wherever I want guide me, and usually find kind of neat places like that. So it's just really about a lot. I call it actually the orchestrated accident, where I'm like, basically everything's kind of an accident what you see, because I just kind of stumble across a lot of the places, or I meet people by chance, say, oh, go here. So it's a lot of kind of waiting and seeing where I get guided to go. Which is quite fun. So orchestrated accent in the sense that like I'm really ready to like take advantage of whatever situation I come across. So if there's somewhere and I really like the way it looks like, I'll stop the car or stop whatever I'm doing, get out, set up the camera if I can, and take the photo, and it'll be done really, really fast, like some photos maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe some are longer. Depends like the situation. If there's, I have to leave quickly because there's lots of traffic, or it's not like ideal situation, I'll do it fast. Sometimes if I have time, I'll take longer, but it's all kind of improvised, really.
Well, that's a question that I wanted to ask. Also, on the contrary, does it happen sometimes that you want to shoot a place that, I don't know, you found interesting, and then you have this blank page syndrome? Like you're like, okay, nothing comes out of this.
Oh yeah, all the time. But those are sometimes some of the best photos afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you kind of go, this is shit. Like I don't even know what I'm doing here. This is ugly. And you're like, but I got nowhere else to go. And it's like the end of the day, and you're like, the light's going, and I didn't get any photos I wanted today, because it's just some days are not as great as others. And so I'll be like, just keep doing it and just kind of like sort of force it out, let's say, not, in a nice way, like just kind of just do it because there's, it's better than not working. Like what else am I going to do, right? Like, I have nothing better to do. So I'll do it. And then later on, I'll be like, oh, when I'm doing the editing, could be weeks later, or days, usually weeks, or maybe even a month later, I'll be like, that's a pretty awesome photo. Not that I think I'm awesome, but I'll be like, this, I really like one. So
yeah, I feel like surprise is often something that comes out as like the art practice.
Yeah.
It's like you're surprised of what you did.
Half the work is just like doing it and then just testing and trying. And if you don't do it, then you're not going to get anything. So if you wait for ideal conditions all the time, then you're like, or I think it's probably the same, I don't know, I'm imagining with a writer or any other practice, like if you just wait for the muse to come, you're like, oh, I'll only have to wait until I'm inspired. Like, you're going to work like once a month. Like, you just have to kind of sit there and be like, carve out that time. Like, here's an hour. I'm just going to go do something. And you usually come back with something. It's not always what you wanted. It never is what you wanted. And it's never like always exactly like great, but there's something there that pushes you forward. So I think it's just practicing and working at it. And then you kind of come across things, right?
But you say, you talk about muse, but it's you who's depicted in the pictures. It's a woman, so who is she?
When I said muse, that was a general term of
yeah,
like, of course, like the muse, like waiting for your inspiration, let's say, to come, right?
Yeah. But like this woman then, who is she? Like, do you have an idea beforehand, or does she just come up with surprise as well?
I say it's a mixture of the two. Because it is, because I'm using me, so I already have sort of who I am. I wouldn't say an essence of me, but there's this kind of idea that's perhaps, ephemeral, that's kind of floating there, which is Kourtney, which we all have maybe of ourselves, right? So that already kind of comes with an imposed sort of set of ideas or a set of practices when you go to a place. But then once you're there, like in the series I did in Naples, Failed Postcards from Napoli, I mean, I really wanted the city to inspire me, the chaos, how women dress. So I bought clothes from the shops around in Naples, for example, and I would go, I didn't come with all a bunch of stuff from Paris or from somewhere else. I tried really to I didn't actually come with any preconceived ideas, for example, and I didn't have like it all mood boarded out or storyboarded or like huge things like this. It was really like just go and then, living there for a month, eating, walking around, working, all these things sort of kind of come in. So there's it kind of the character slowly gets constructed over time too, and it evolves as it goes. It's not a set sort of idea that's concrete and like this is that character and this is what she's doing. And I don't even think about that when I'm doing it. It's just more like what do I feel like shooting today? When you go to a place, what wig am I going to put on? Oh, here's some clothes I bought yesterday, which I had not even had 2 days before, and also those will come into play and change everything. Or situations will really situations and whatever accidental things come up will play really into what's going to happen in the photo.
Yeah, so your experience of the city then really allow you to construct your images.
Yeah, definitely. The sense of place is really primordial in my work. This idea that it's not that I mean, obviously I go and I impose a certain idea perhaps or a vision, to not sound too grandiose, of what I want to do, how I work and how I operate and how I create images and what sometimes they look like and an aesthetic, and all these things kind of come into play. But I really want the place to take over as well, to really influence what the images are going to look like, what they're going to say. Not that I know anything what they're going to say, but they will say something. We'll just let them see what happens and it'll come out, and then So it's really about like letting things happen and like trying to leave a space where some creative things, some accidents, all this stuff. It's all about being really patient and like hoping for things to happen, basically.
Mm-hmm. So of course I have a question about Napoli then.
Yeah.
you say the city kind of impacts the photos, but you chose to picture Napoli totally empty, which is the opposite of real Napoli. So why did you choose to empty this city?
There's practical reasons and aesthetic and artistic reasons for that. Lots of places actually I went to anyway were empty. Like there's a lot of abandoned places in the series. A lot of places I like nowhere places, like liminal spaces. I like kind of this idea of the census place where like people never like in between places I call them where people never really use them, but you go by them every day, so they're not really ever thought about or kind of like engaged in a way that maybe would be like, oh, like here's a monument, or here's like the historical center, and here's this museum. Like these are all sort of places that people go to. These are known places that you are supposed to go to, and this is what you use them for, right? Or I can like go to a place and it's like behind a building and there's a garbage and a Jesus statue, or it's like a really tiny gas station bar. And these are places that people use all the time, but they're never actually concretely or like intentionally think of them as anything other than just a place to preoccupy your space while you're going to somewhere else. I guess I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself right, because sometimes I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, but it's so that these places are kind of naturally empty anyway. I would naturally gravitate towards them anyway because it's easier to photograph. So it's practical reasons. Like I can do stuff if there's a lot of people around, but I feel awkward if there's like 20, 30, 100 people watching you, or sometimes I didn't even on the streets, but it was just me waiting in the series. And there's there's an image where there's Vesuvio behind, and then there's some buildings, and it's kind of like this, looks like a highway sort of overpass. And that picture's empty. It was really fucking full of cars all the time. It was just by chance, like one shot I got was empty, and I liked what I was doing in the shot. So it was actually like really full of people. It was kind of a pain in the ass, and like dudes were yelling outside of the street, and they're like, "Ah, ciao, blah blah blah," as you know, Italy. So you get a sense of this quietness, but it's actually not that quiet. It's also the photography in the sense of like posing the camera, framing, and waiting and choosing the right image, because it's all about choice, taking photos, and then it's editing. It's not so much about like active creation as opposed to photographing and then selecting. So it's more, the nature of photography makes it seem quieter than it is, I think.
For sure. But it's the opposite is in the tourist, because in the tourist you decided to have men and other women around that woman that you're depicting. So my question was like, why would you in this Napoli series like not have anyone, and in the tourist, who are the people around? How do they affect you and the woman that you portray in the series?
I think it's just, for the tourist, I just wanted to start working with local, I guess, like collaborators, actors usually, actors and models. For the tourist, it was actually mostly actors who I hired, basically collaborated with, and also bodybuilders. So going out deliberately searching for bodybuilders and asking them to pose with me, and basically paying them and getting them to sign a contract. So this is not all, that was actually much less accidental in a way, because you had to give them like a rendezvous. Meet me here. You can't just like wander around with like 4 bodybuilders in your car. I mean, you could, but it was more complicated. So that was actually a much more, let's say, organized shoot in terms of I did find locations ahead of time a lot of the times, or not like ahead of time. I was there 3 days in advance, and I would go and did locations. Did also obviously casting. So there was a couple days of that, which I normally don't do. I usually just dive right in. And then while we were shooting, while I would have them, while we were going to places, I would be like, oh, let's just stop here. And I would, see a location and, make a note of it, see if we'd any permission, whatever. And then maybe a couple days later, we'd go back to that place. So it was kind of a rolling sort of location scouting as we were going, because I knew I couldn't just kind of drive around and hope for the best. I can do it by myself, and it's okay if I don't have any photos, but if I'm paying 5 people and I have a big hair and makeup team or oiling up bodybuilders and stuff, I need to be a bit more organized. So Napoli was just really, it was about an exploration of the city with Christina, the gallery owner because it was an artist residency for Spot Home Gallery, which is a photo gallery in Naples. And Christina, the director, she invited me to come. She's really cool, and she's a proper lady from Naples. And she, when I say proper lady, like she's really properly from Naples. She's also a proper lady. And she basically like took me in a little tiny like red car, and we just drove around Naples everywhere. And she knows all the small little hidden corners of Naples.
You say that you don't really think about this woman when you portray her, I guess. But like when we saw her in the pictures, we thought she was vulnerable. What do you think about this?
Maybe, yeah. What do I think? I mean, it's interesting that you think she's vulnerable, and maybe that, like, I think everybody who who sees images brings obviously their own personal reading of it, reading of what the image is saying to them. So vulnerable, but maybe also because it's your theme is safety and desire, and so you're already kind of from a point of view, looking at the position of a woman in the world, in space, in society, and what does that mean in terms of safety and desire. I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing. So that's kind of, it's you going to bring basically everything that you have towards,
of course,
your reading, which is what is actually interesting about it. Actually, I kind of was like, who gives a shit what I think? So I'd rather actually hear what people say. So you say it's vulnerable. Some people go like it's really empowering, or she looks like she's really taking up space. And it's interesting, vulnerable, because there is a certain vulnerability when you're kind of just like wearing a wig, taking photos. You just kind of feel vulnerable, not like you're scared, you're not in danger, but I mean, didn't feel in danger anyway, but it just kind of feel stupid and you feel awkward and you feel dumb, and you're kind of got like eyelashes on and like high heel shoes and stuff. So you do feel a bit silly, but you also, so there's probably a certain amount of vulnerability involved with that as well.
It's also, I think, maybe because she, in many series, she seems dreamy, like she's thinking of
Vacant.
something.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's maybe why we thought of vulnerability in a way.
Yeah, I usually do kind of like that sort of, there's a certain vacantness, or I guess for me it's like she's more like looking more at the interior landscape than the exterior landscape. So what's going on inside her mind, I think there's definitely a gap or divide between what you see as external reality and what's actually happening in the interior. And I really like to explore and play with actually that gap, that divide between interior psychological realms and exterior supposed reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. It's just I feel like she's dreaming of something, and the rest of the characters around are like very down to earth in a way. So that's what I was thinking about, and it kind of creates a feeling of strangeness to the images.
Yeah.
Is that something that you like playing with?
Yeah, strange, weird, kind of ambiguity I usually use a lot when I'm like writing artist proposals. Like ambiguity, strange, uncanny. But also
uncanny, exactly.
Uncanny,
it's exactly the word I would
which is familiar and strange. Well, obviously I'm doing a very simplified rendition of it, but yeah, where things that are very familiar can be also sometimes the most strange. But also humor, dark humor. Like, I don't like to take myself too seriously or like make like it's it's just taking photos at the end of the day. It's not I'm not that special. Nobody's special doing it. So a bit of humor always helps.
And there's also very kitsch aesthetics that also surrounds you here. Is this something that you've always liked or been attracted to?
Yeah, I love kitsch. I mean, Naples is a great city for that. I say that with like really positive vibes. That it's can be very kitsch, in its Italian kind of way, colorful and sometimes crumbling and sometimes dilapidated and sometimes like very puffy and like with cheesy pillars and all this stuff. So I really has so many layers of kitsch. It's like a veritable kind of like Russian doll of kitschness inside of it. But I mean, yeah. So I love kitsch. I love kitsch because it's, I don't know. I always feel like kitsch is just a sense, just a general sense of beauty, that desire for beauty that people have, and it gets kind of mass produced. Usually kitsch is kind of mass produced. Not always. I mean, I think there's tons of different types of ideas of what kitsch is or definitions of it. I can't remember perhaps the dictionary definition at all, but for me, it's kind of beauty for even those who don't necessarily have any sort of like, how do you say, like any sort of education or specific formation, like they're not necessarily in the arts or anything like that, but you still have this sense of wanting to think of beauty or
it's out of
aesthetic,
the bourgeois aesthetics, or like the
a
vision of beauty
lowbrow.
with a big B, I would say. Like it's the opposite of the beauty as we think of it, the bourgeois beauty in a way, I guess.
Yeah, or highbrow and lowbrow culture, and kitsch is lowbrow, and I'm very interested in lowbrow culture.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's also, I was gonna ask about your personal life as well. Like, what relationship do you have to clothing? Is this something that you play with as well in your personal life?
I wear a lot of the clothes after I photographed them because I had already bought them, so I keep them. like this, I did this for Rimini, and after it was like €3, and I have a relationship with clothing. I mean, because I use like dress up so much for work and stuff. I mean, like everybody, I like clothing, but I don't really pay that much attention to fashion stuff. I really like color. clothing is more like, used clothing. I buy most of my stuff, like 99% of it, all from like thrift stores. So just because I grew up doing that, we just kind of didn't have any money growing up. So we were like thrift store queens. And I just kind of kept that. Now it's trendy, but I was like, well, we just did it because we didn't have any money. Now it's cool.
You talk about Naples with a lot of love. I feel like my question would be, do you have an emotional connection to the places that you choose to photograph?
Maybe not from the beginning. Well, Naples specifically, definitely. I'd already been there a few times before. Just traveling just by myself, not by myself, but for myself as more of a tourist, basically. And I thought it was amazing. And then talking to Christina, because I'd met Christina a few years back, and she'd already been mentioning about this residency, and I was like, So she invited me. I was in Italy a couple years ago, somewhere else, and she said, come down for a couple of days. I'll show you around the city. You can see if you want to do a thing, a residency here in like 2 years. And I was like, okay. And I was kind of, I really like Naples because it's chaotic. I like chaos. It's filthy. I like filthy, chaotic cities. But I really like Italian people. I really like Napolitani. So I kind of, I like the food too. It has all the things I love, in a city. I think, Naples, I think it's probably either you love it or hate it, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite cities, for sure.
Yeah. There are also a lot of religious icons, like
everywhere.
the one you have behind you right now.
Yeah, that one's crappy. They have better ones.
Yeah, they do.
They do everything better.
Yeah, for sure, which we see actually on your pictures.
Yeah, I didn't shoot that many because the city is actually like,
full
it's a cliche almost, and I like kitsch, but I don't necessarily want to do always cliche, which is, there's Italian cliches, which are the altars, usually with the saint or the virgin, and other sort of cliches. And so I do have a few altars, as you see. I think there's Jesus, and there's probably, is it San Gennaro probably, and then maybe there's the Virgin Mary somewhere. But then there's a point where I'm like, well, that's 2 or 3 photos in a series, that's enough. If not, then it's just kind of, it's almost too easy,
Yeah, well,
like what you have to go beyond what's the surface of Napoli, and like what's the garbage underneath, Yeah. That's what I want to photograph.
Well, I think you photograph a lot of places that are cliches in themselves, like Rimini as well. It's the same, and like in The Tourist, it's also a cliche with the long nails and everything. And
well, a cliche, or it's it's a cliche, but it exists. Like Rimini exists. Is it a cliche if it exists? It's not like necessarily a style or anything, but yeah, I really like places that like tourist sort of traps, for sure.
I think we can go to the last question, can we?
What's the last question?
It's about, so we ask
people
to, choose an object that you like or that is part of your life. Okay. And just describe it a bit and tell us what it means to you.
Okay. This is actually I have a big collection of snow globes, pretty big. I don't know how many. It's probably not the biggest in the world, not at all. I'm sure other people have much more than me, but it's something whimsical and kitschy that I've been doing for a long time, since I've been traveling and living in Europe for like 20 years. So this is, I picked a really neutral one. It's not specifically a place, because I didn't want to prioritize one place over another. But I got this in, I'm going to read the back, the Vienna Snow Globe. So it's from the Vienna Snow Globe Museum. I went to Vienna like 2 years ago, and I was looking up museums to go to. And I always try to find like the most sort of maudlin and sad and campy museums. And there was a snow globe museum, and it's probably one of the best museums I've ever seen of its caliber, for sure. So I bought a whole bunch of stuff from the museum. And I really like the rose. I think the rose is pretty kitsch already. It's definitely a cliche as well. So I just picked this one. It's also because it's holding up pretty good. When they get old, I realize, because I have some old ones now, they just start they get kind of brown, and they lose the water, and they get kind of misty in the inside. So this one aesthetically for the interview, I thought would present well. So
yeah, I think it makes sense also with the kitsch and everything we've talked about.
Yeah, I saw it. I was just like, it's just a rose. Like, I don't know. And I like snow globes because they're like, it's like photography. They're a world within a world. You put a frame around something and you created a world. And also they're like, everything's dead. It's like death. It's like all these things involved. It's actually a metaphor for so many things. At the same time, it's like the most kitschy, campy thing. Really cheap. You can buy everywhere you go. You want to bring a souvenir back, you bring back a snow globe. I don't know. They're just I really like them. I think they're very special.
They're cool, actually.
They're really cool.
Well, there's a frog museum, if you want, in Croatia.
Frog?
frog museum.
Oh, in Croatia.
So yeah, they depict all the cliches from Croatia, and they all the
Frogs.
everyday scenes, and they translate it to baby frogs.
Are they live? Not live. Were they dead?
Well,
Are they stuffed?
Yeah,
Taxidermy?
I think so.
They have a great one in Canada, a gopher museum in Alberta. And they just like all these dead gophers. They're like prairie rats. They're very beautiful and sweet looking. And then they made like tableaus of like daily life, like from pioneer days with like, so it's a museum of gopher, dead gopher. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Okay, I think.
Sorry, that's
next
the next interview. Yeah. We're going to talk about the Gopher Museum.
For sure.